Happy Friday, ambitious readers. Welcome back to another edition of Reading Ambitiously, where every single week we bring you the most powerful ideas that are shaping our world. And some weeks, I don't know how to figure out how to do this, but what motivates me is our readers and our listeners. I appreciate you so much. And we've got a really big idea in store for you this week that we call the right to leave. What is AI sovereignty really? And can it be achieved? Thinking Machines founder and former OpenAI CTO, Mira Murati, has built an AI product with a highly unusual feature. The customer can leave after they use it. And one of its first public customers is Bridgewater Associates, a secretive hedge fund. And using Thinking Machines' Tinker platform, Bridgewater started with an open source model as a base and trained it on its own data. And Bridgewater says the results have beaten models from OpenAI and Anthropic at triaging financial documents while cutting computing costs 13x. When the work was done, Bridgewater was able to download the finished model weights, own them, and run them somewhere else. A hedge fund like Bridgewater lives on judgment that has accumulated over decades. You think they might want to own that? Maybe that sounds technical, but we already understand arrangements like this. We license database software from one vendor and we rent servers from another. We still expect to control the database and move our data if either relationship changes. And that expectation is so normal, we barely think about it. AI is testing that assumption because every time we correct one of these systems or we explain a decision, it learns something about our business. And if the provider changes its price or policy, the question is, do we own what it has learned? And that question has a name, AI sovereignty. And this is what Alex Karp is going nuts about on CNBC, and Satya Nadella is saying in a more Satya-like way in his recent essays. Governments and technology companies are building entire strategies around this concept of sovereignty. And I've been nodding along because it makes a lot of sense to me, but I admitted to myself this week, I don't fully understand it. So I dug in and I kept coming back to one test. Do you have the right to leave? Sovereignty is authority over your own affairs, and it allows for dependence. Nation states trade and borrow money and run on technology built elsewhere while retaining control of the decisions and assets that shape their future. My working definition for an enterprise is this: AI sovereignty is control over the knowledge its AI systems accumulate and the freedom to take that knowledge elsewhere. We will never own every model or chip and data center that we use, and we should not try to, because owning all of it would be prohibitively expensive. The key decision is where to draw the line. We can rent the models while keeping control of what they learn about our company. And that is Mr. Karp's argument. And once AI gets close to our means of production or source of alpha generation, we are teaching it how our company works. And today's AI models, they know a lot about the public internet and they know almost nothing about our businesses. And Friedrich Hayek understood this when he said that much of the knowledge that produces results is local and held by the people who learned it the hard way, by actually doing the work. And inside our companies, AI becomes useful when we teach it why one customer got an exception, why the forecast changed, and we tell it what right looks like. And every time we make a correction, we hand it a piece of knowledge that was ours. And if that learning stays locked inside the provider's system, every improvement will ultimately deepen our dependence on that provider. We are, in some cases, paying to teach another company's system what makes our system work. And if you take this to the extreme, this is the argument for AI sovereignty, because the concern is multiplying that conundrum across millions of customers and a handful of providers that could accumulate an extraordinary amount of knowledge of how the world's companies operate. Closer to home, our learning has to survive using these products. And the question is, can we take it with us? I believe so, selectively. The model is only one layer of an AI system. We could download the weights and still leave behind most of what made them useful. The learning is held in the knowledge base and memory and evaluation, all the stuff that we're building around the model that I've been talking about in Reading Ambitiously. Satya calls all of this the exhaust that keeps the learning in the system we control, and the models and computing power can come from somewhere else. I think one of the hardest questions right now is moving that memory, because changing models is getting easier. Everyone's releasing model routers. But moving years of context and corrections and decision-making is not. But if that memory sits in systems we control, we can switch models without having to start over. I think somebody is going to build the equivalent of VMware in the AI era and probably do incredibly well by helping with this portability. And soon enough, the harder question will be whether we actually want to leave, because control has a huge price. Products from OpenAI and Anthropic are often more capable. They're easier to use, much like the reasons we select SaaS providers today. The provider's able to run the system and keep improving it. A clean exit is worth little if it means using a worse product every day. For much of our work, paying for the best model available or the best product available may simply be the right call. The trick is knowing when it's not. And that's what Bridgewater wanted. Control over one narrow, repeatable task that had their proprietary data, a model that they owned and that they could tune, and one that ultimately beat OpenAI and Anthropic at performing this task for a fraction of the cost. And I think we've seen this movie before, because in the dot-com era, Sun Microsystems pushed for a much more open computing world, and they gifted us Java. Microsoft built a far more controlled computing system, and history declined to choose only one. Windows may have won the desktop, but Java and Linux became the backbone of business software and the first wave of major internet applications. And enterprises used a mosaic of all of these things. I suspect AI will go the same way. We will use closed models where performance wins and open models where control wins, and we will blend them wherever the trade-off is unclear. A right to leave requires a real alternative. And if a handful of companies own both the frontier and the learning built around them, then switching providers only trades one dependency for another. The alternatives stay real only if we choose to keep them real. And we cannot predict whether open or closed models will win, whether it's OpenAI, Anthropic, or a new entrant we don't even know about yet, but we can decide what our company must keep. And I would start with 4 questions. Number 1 is, what are we teaching our AI systems to do? Number 2 is, where does that learning live today? And number 3 is, once we've done that, can we take it with us in any usable form? And number 4, what stops working if we change providers? If nobody can answer those questions, the dependency is already forming, and it's okay, because we're just at the beginning. But the thinking machine's download button may look a lot like a technical feature today, but perhaps a preview of the future. Think about Oracle. They'll let you export all your data too if you ask them. The lock-in comes from everything built around the database, the cost and the pain that makes leaving unthinkable. Nobody migrates a database for fun, and Larry Ellison built an entire empire and a super yacht or two on exactly that idea. Now, the learning has to come with us as well. It's the data and the learning, and the right to leave with both is what makes ultimately staying our choice, thus sovereignty. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, ambitious readers. I truly love doing this for you every single week. It is my immense pleasure. Please do take care of each other. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye-bye.